All right, I think we're live and ready to go. We're actually going to question this saying a little bit. It's one that I've used before here in class, which is people generally see what they look for and hear what they want to listen for. This came from a lot of people have said this, but this particular version of it is an excerpt from a book called To Kill a Mockingbird. And what we're going to see in today's class is that that's not necessarily true. So sometimes if we have concepts where we expect someone to say something or we expect to see something, we might actually see it or hear it even if it's not there. Today we're going to see examples of the opposite, where you may not be looking for something and it may be what you see. We'll try to understand what that is. You're going to see today as we go through perception that how we are beginning to implement perception in artificial intelligence in terms of training systems based on interpreting audio in language and audio, or photographs or still images, and trying to identify faces and things like that. It's very different in many ways in terms of how we as humans identify things. So that's really the point of the next few classes. Oops. Just as a reminder, these are the Zoom links that I've put up in advance for March. Homework number 5 is going to be straightforward. What I mean by that is I just want to make sure you understand the concepts that we've gone through. So there'll be a lot of questions, but they're going to be more simplistic questions. And if you've done the reading, they should be easy. And if not, you should be able to still go online and stuff and figure it out. Okay. That's going to be online by tomorrow before midnight. Usually I get them done a lot earlier than the deadline. And it's still due Monday before 11:59 as per usual. Exam number 2 is still coming up on April 1st. It's still the same required homework reading as been for a couple of weeks. So the homework's mostly going to be on genes and mostly going to be on chapter 4 of how emotions are made. So hopefully you've read all that, and the homework will be fairly quick this week. As far as your last homework, I've graded all of it except the part that's related to your projects, because I'm going to give you feedback for each of you, and it's just going to take me a little bit of time to do that. Today we're going to finish up on memory. I forgot to talk about forgetting, so I want to have a few slides on forgetting, and then we're going to jump into perception. Okay, I'm going to try to turn off the lights, because in this class, I don't want you to fall asleep, but we're going to be doing some things with vision that's important for you to see. So I want you to look at this picture very carefully, and pretty soon I'm going to divide the class like we did with the refer back, where this half of the class is going to be your chance to get back to that side of the class. This side of the class is going to everybody in the class to look at this picture. I'm not going to show it again. So take your time. Did everybody see it okay from where they were sitting? Anybody need any more time with it before I switch? Okay. So this half of the class, your job before the end of today's class is to forget the pictures you saw. You don't have the harder task. Your part of the task is to remember those pictures. Forget the picture. Remember it. So here's forgetting. So some of the classic ways that people try to forget is by blocking, resisting, or ignoring. If you have someone, maybe you were in a relationship, it could be a friend, it could be a girlfriend, boyfriend, or it could be an interview that went south, and you just try to block it out of your mind. Pretend that person doesn't exist, pretend that thing never happened. You might ignore the person. If it's someone that you're going to see on a regular basis. There's some question as to how well that actually works. Okay. So, and if you've been through a situation, you might realize that it may not necessarily work as well as you might like it to. Intentional forgetting is the process basically what these folks are doing. They're going to make sure they forget. Intentional forgetting, to be efficient, has been linked to having some increase in what they call the cerebral engagement with the unwanted information. So if you're trying to forget an old boyfriend or girlfriend, and your approach is just completely ignore them and block them out, the idea is that you have memory cells of that person, and you have memories of that person, and they're still there. And so you may, so you're going to basically see something that's going to remind you of that person. And so it's going to, so in those cells, since you're not accessing those memories, you're basically leaving them there. So you're addressing it from a recall perspective, but they're still there. So the theory goes, and there's a reference here at the bottom if you're interested in more of this. A lot of times you'll see little links at the bottom. You don't have to go there. If you're interested in more, you can use topics. You can click on the link, and there's more information. So the idea is that to forget something, you actually need to focus on it first. Now, you don't want to focus on it so much that you reinforce the memory, so now it's there. Or you don't necessarily focus on it too little that you're not able to change it. So forgetting is basically not an easy thing to do. But one of the things that scientists are finding out now is that if you do want to forget, you have to spend some amount of time remembering. And I think, in English, I don't know if it's the same word in Spanish. We say you have to process. Procesar. You have to, if you've been through that situation, in order to sort of be able to let go of those memories and truly forget, you have to spend some amount of time processing the memories. So that's kind of consistent with this philosophy. And presumably what this allows you to do is to activate those memory cells enough that maybe you can reassociate them or dull down their associations with things that are going to happen later in life because you've already processed those memories in some sufficient way. We're not going to get through vision, sound, touch, smell, taste, and language. But is there anybody who has not seen this picture? If you're not, then you have no social media. So what color is the So I want to just make sure we're all seeing the same colors. What? What do you see? Black and blue. Does anybody not see black and blue? What do you see? White and gold. Okay. So I will let you know. I still can't see the people. And I've tried so hard for this class because I've only just to show you I covered things up, I changed the illumination. I put white and gold next to it. Just wasn't enough. I do see a little brown here. I can convince myself that there's brownish, goldish here. but I just couldn't see the white here. There's a little bit of whiteness here. Okay, I had these as closing thoughts last time, and I went through them really fast in about 20 seconds. So I want to have them here as opening thoughts. Because we spent a lot of time, a few weeks talking about senses. We spent a week and a half talking about memory. And there's a really important linkage that I don't want you to forget, which is that regardless of this type of sensing we were talking about, we're always talking about receptors. There might have been receptors that were in the cochlea that were responding to the fluid that was moving because of the drums in our ears that were sending electrical impulses, or they might have been receptors in the skin that were responding to touch or to damage, pain. Might have been receptors in the taste buds, receptors in the back of the eyes. You're always talking about receptors. And basically, what we're talking about are nerves and cells. Same types of things. The difference is that in the brain, all those neurons, neural cells, along with the glia that we talked about, are all sort of mashed up together. There's not a lot of room, if you will, for them to move around like if you move around their skin. There's not a lot of room around to, like in your skin or your tongue. And because of that, we know that architecturally, their geometry and their interconnectedness with each other is what makes them function, gives the function of the brain and thinking and memories, versus having the same sort of intensity of thought and memory throughout the body, although we do know there are some things that we remember from the body. So when we talked about memory, I wanted to make sure that we didn't lose sight of the fact that to remember isn't as magical as we might think if we think that all we have to do is store in these similar kinds of cells, whatever they sense, if you will, that same response. So if when it's, when the nerve ending senses pain, it causes nerve impulse that causes pain, then presumably you could also cause pain by having a cell that stimulated the same type of nerve impulse that went to the same part of the brain. And so if you saw through your head from a certain part of your brain and you wanted to recreate a memory, then presumably the brain just has to create these impulses and send them to the same area of the brain so you can see it again. So it's not like we have apples and oranges and bricks and steel. I mean, we're all still talking about cells, we're still talking about nerve impulses, we're still talking about nerve impulses. The only thing that we saw and we struggled with last few classes is that this three-dimensional close-packed structure of the brain and the fact that it's very hard to, we talked about first in the class, you don't have access to everybody else's thoughts, you don't have access to the home. So being able to directly access your thoughts while you're seeing what your cells are doing is really hard. And a lot of people being inadept activities like that. So it's caused a lot of limitations in terms of scientists being able to figure out exactly how the brain works. So 3 questions here. Number 1 in bold. Do we remember exactly what we sensed originally? I talked a little bit about this last time. But when you have your eyes open and you see, or you see me and I see you, close your eyes. What do you see and how is it different than what you see when your eyes are open? I'm sorry, when I say what do you see, your eyes are closed and I say I don't see it. What do you remember about what you saw? And how is that different than what you actually see? Well, I want to get some feedback from you.
the details when you close your eyes. You can see the general picture, but there are some details that you can miss and see when you're trying to remember the picture.
Yeah.
I think when you're seeing in real life, your perception of real what's real, then it's more like action and reaction where the events and the environment are triggering certain electrical impulses with your eyes or the air around you. And you know there's a pattern in your brain that is triggered whenever you're seeing like now in class and like, seeing the projector. There's a pattern that is being triggered right now, and that is making me interpret what I'm seeing. But when you close your eyes and try to imagine the same thing, it's more of your brain trying to recreate whatever that pattern that was triggered was. So you kind of remember, or in your memory you see, it's like a recreation of what happened. Not much as seeing exactly what you saw.
Is that as colorful?
Well, it for me, at least for me, I can remember at least, let's say the white background, the letters are black. I can remember most of the colors that, but it's like, a recreation that my brain is doing when I trigger that, memory. Triggering whatever the impulses that I felt were. And that's what makes me, I think, remember.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
It's based on the book, my saying is that we are hallucinating what we processed before. For example, we are processing all the information that is around us, and when we try to remember it, we are hallucinating with the data sets that are already on our mind about our ideas, about what's on the environment.
Do we perceive what we sense? And do we perceive what we want to perceive? What you think about that a little bit? When a computer sees, or your phone sees, it's using a camera. We talked about this camera have pixels and convert photons coming in into electrical signals. And then we talked about that being encoded and stored in memory, like that long-term memory, accessing long-term memory through short-term memory and cache, and display these things. We also talked about the fact that whatever it sees in this camera is the same exact thing that's compressed. But generally, it's pretty close to lossless compression. So that what you see is what you code is. You don't want to compress anything. So very different, right? You would think that a computer should have a lot easier than we do, because when we're learning what a cat looks like, or a dog looks like, we don't have the luxury of looking at thousands of dogs and thousands of cats and training ourselves how to do that. We've presumably at some point seen a lot of thousands of cats. We don't have access to them. So it seems like there's something maybe that we're missing when we're applying AI. If we have so much more information, that we're still not able to do as good a job. Is it the algorithms aren't good enough? I don't think that's what it is. Or is it that we don't have all the information? And so part of what we're going to see today is we're going to combine those things. Or when we didn't perceive, we were talking about things coming in from the senses. We saw the Kirk effect, and we talked about, well, in this case, the computer probably is not going to be full, because the computer is just going to be looking at, just going to be hearing the sound today. The phone is going to hear the same sound both times. If you don't believe me, at least Google phone does it. If you put the Google phone up to bar, even though to humans it might sound far, the phone's actually translated correctly. We'll go through some definitions here. Perception. Next few classes are about perception. What is perception? You can answer it.
It's like our ability to figure out what's going on.
That you're figuring out what's going on. That's good. So sensation interpreted in the light of experience. This is a definition from Webster. I didn't do like before where I put all the definitions. I just kind of put the one I thought was more fitting to what we were doing. So perception is interpreting in light of your experience, your sensations. Then what's hallucination? I could ask you a simple question. Has anybody ever hallucinated? Here. No one's ever hallucinated.
No, I don't. There was one time I had my fever. Yeah, I hallucinated. I remember it was some stupid stuff, but I felt very
Okay. So it wasn't real.
Yeah.
It wasn't real. So actually, it's perceptions of objects with no reality is the definition of it. It's interesting to say that because that happened to me too, actually. I was in Volca. I was a little kid and I had a feeling. And I just remember seeing like a can with pores, and the pores were big, and I was going into, I was awake. It wasn't that I was sleeping. So fever sometimes can be some things.
I remember seeing it was like a ball, a ball bouncing around. For some reason, I felt very bad.
Yeah. I would feel terrible. Yes. So, concepts, something conceived in the mind, an abstract or general idea generalized from some particular, you've read this already in the book. It's basically something created in your mind about what you would expect. And then illusion can be a little different from hallucination. Sometimes in Webster, they actually, one of the definitions for illusion is hallucination. But the other definition says it's something that deceives or misleads intellectually. So hallucination, if we think about, is perception of objects that have no reality. What you're seeing or what you're hearing is not really actually there. You're hallucinating it. An illusion is basically more like a trick. I just thought it's been a little while, so I put this up here. There's not really a lot of information here on this slide. So recall that we image light at the retina, where the rods and cones trigger nerve impulses sent to the brain. So light comes in, crosses itself here. Here we have our rods pretty much close to here because they work close to there's not a lot of light. And we have our cones that are more spread out. We have, red, green, and blue cones. And then they stimulate nerve impulses that are channeled into different parts of the brain where you make sense of it. If you read Dr. Feldman, you don't just have this stuff coming in and then you decide, oh, I think it makes sense of it. You have stuff coming in, you have some kind of idea of what it is you can see, is what Dr. Feldman says. So you apply these concepts, what it is you're going to see. And if it's what it is that you thought you were going to see, then you see it. And if not, then presumably your brain has to sort of reconcile its guesses as to what's going on with what it saw. Has anybody ever heard of the Ganzfeld effect? No? There's a video. So this is actually something that you could do. If you do it, I suggest you do it with a friend nearby or something. Mess with you. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. One is sort of how it's shown here. Those are most likely like a ping pong ball, basically, that you cut in half. And then you put it on cover your eyes. And then you actually want to be in a lit room. If you want to increase the effect, you can put on, you can cover your ears so you don't hear this. And so, what people report that have gone through this kind of effect is that at first you may stop seeing. You don't see anything, not even the light. And part of the thinking there is that your eyes basically, you just seeing everything basically white over some period of time, just stops seeing it or stops showing it to the brain. But there's another interesting effect, which is that your brain begins to amplify the noise around the light that produces it. So instead of seeing just all boring white light in all directions, it actually starts to try to build some resolution into what it's seeing. And ultimately ends up amplifying the noise within the light signal, so that people who do this to themselves start to see things because the mind's trying to make sense of this noisy signal that has nothing to do with reality. So the eye's trying to make some reality, even though there's nothing that, or I'm sorry, the mind is trying to make some reality. The eyes aren't giving it anything to make the reality from. I may show this to you live, but not to me. And then make sure it's not going to mess anybody up. So this is I'm not going to try to pronounce that. The PURKING effect. Similar to what we discussed before in class. It's shown in pictures here, but basically you can do this for yourself as you're driving around or walking around. The sun starts going down. It starts getting a little darker. You might see everything start looking sort of bluish, dark bluish, or dark. So even like grass, if you know it's green, you look at it, and it doesn't look green anymore. So this is just the same flower under different lighting effects. You thought we were done with colors. What colors do you see here? I want to hear from someone who is an easy one.
Green, red, blue, yellow,
Green, red, yellow,
white,
white.
sand color.
Okay, green, red, yellow, white, sand color. What colors do you see here? Okay, that's good. So, would it surprise you to know that the creation of this picture with the strawberries has no red? It has no red. So this is red here at the bottom. That's a red strawberry. And we've talked about these things before, but for some reason, your mind, you will perceive things and believe things are there that aren't actually there. We're going to see lots of examples of that today. And I don't know about you, but to me, this is already valuable information, because if I want to create something that perceives or can interact with a human, then I need to understand what it is I'm supposed to be interpreting from whatever sensory data it is that I have. In some cases, I may need to perceive how a human perceives, even if that perception is different than the reality. Would it help me as a computing system, even in a low-lighted situation, to look at that same image and perceive that it's red because I can perceive that they're strong. Or if I'm a computing system and I look at this image, what am I going to see? Right? If I was sitting here and I had a camera and put it into my signal processor and I needed all those colors, what color would it say the picture? It wouldn't say red, right? It wouldn't say red. It would say, well, now it's red. But over here, it would say gray. That's as close as to red. So how would you train an artificial intelligence system to be able to look at that picture, the original picture, and say that they're strawberries if strawberries are supposed to be red? Okay, who here sees a cool looking circle in the middle? What color is it? White solid or
Capacity.
low? Still see the circle? I'm going to zoom in. Maybe. So this is zoomed in, so you can see all light. Right? Maybe you can see a little bit of something here. Now it's zoomed into the blue. Basically, there is no blue anywhere in the space. The blue is just on the left. I'll go back so you can see. So whatever you see, as far as that circle, isn't actually there. Now, we talked about concepts. Melvin says if you know the concept of what it's supposed to be, then you're going to be able to see it. I just want you to stare at this for a little bit. See if you can not see the circle. Remember, only the lines are blue. So if you want to know what it actually looks like, well, it's the circle. But if you want to know what it actually is, like only these things are blue. So anything that you see in between the line is not really there. I couldn't do it. I'm asking because I don't want to see. So I know what it actually is. And so I'm trying to do the right thing and apply the right concept. I know it. But I'm still not seeing it. Is anybody not seeing it? You're not seeing what people see. Not all these things work the same way.
I don't see it.
That's going to come in handy in a little bit. We have not blinking. Same deal. Same deal. Only the the lines have any color. So are there some parts of our brain that we just really just not do? I mean, it works with our sight. When we read about emotions, Dr. Feldman tells us, hey, we just need to make sure we're applying the right concept. Is there a limitation? In some cases, are we just basically going to have to live with whatever it is that we feel? Because even if our mind knows that we shouldn't feel horrible, we're still going to feel it. So even if our mind knows that it's not there, we're still going to see it. Okay, the way this works, and hopefully it works from the back, is you're just going to stare at that for about 30 seconds. Your hopes not to blink your eyes out. Yeah, I'm going to flip this to another image. And when I do, the other image is going to have, this is a dove with a red sky. The other image is going to have a dove. And what I want you to pay attention to is the color of the dove. You ready? So what color was the dove?
Right.
Okay, so now I'm going to tell you that, so it was red and now it's white.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tell you it was always white. So I'm going to help you here. You saw it always white? It may not work because you might be able to see fun. Or, but maybe tell you it's not even, you saw it right before.
Oh, it was always black sky.
You saw the sky turn. That's nice.
We have to do it. No, I was where I was staring at the little circle that you have.
Okay.
It's like, I think that color change is usually peripheral. This one is something.
Yeah, so I was just kind of looking towards at the picture versus focusing on it. We'll do it again. So remember here now, we have a concept. I guarantee you that that dove is left. And when it's on red background, it's left. When I flip it back, it's going to be left. So I want you to apply this concept to the way this is. Do not see red.
I see the blue.
What'd you see? Blue again?
If I focus on the clouds, the sky still stayed white,
Uh-huh.
but the bird was actually rose.
It was actually what?
Gray.
Gray.
And the sky never changed. So it wasn't red.
I saw
It
red.
was red.
Oh, I see red. Or red. Very light. Very light.
All right, so those are called after images, where a previous stimulus, something you're looking at before, affects the perception of what you're looking at now. So just some questions. These will be rhetorical, meaning I'm not expecting this. Is this a failure of perception? It's hard to argue it's not a failure of perception. I think it's white. Still white. Is it a hallucination? Did we all just hallucinate? Let me go back and see the definition. Sensation interpreted in the light of experience is perception. Perception of objects with no real reality. So to the extent that the color of the dove is an object, I guess we hallucinated it. People don't actually fully understand why some of these things happen, because they have different theories of how to do them. One explanation is that you have visual modules that are cognitively penetrating, which is exactly what you see. But there's parts of your brains that are going to see things, and you're going to be stuck with that perception. You're going to perceive, sort of hardwired what that part of the brain perceive those senses to be. And it doesn't matter if you know it's in the brain. Yeah, I haven't tried this long enough to see if I keep playing this concept, if I can eventually train my brain to know it's wrong. But I don't know that anybody can do it. So when we talk about the beliefs Do they matter based on your perception? Do you believe the dove was red? Well, we know the dove was white, but you perceived it to be red, or at least a lot of you did. Based on your knowledge, do you believe the dove was red? I think most of you believe me when I tell you it's white. I made this one. Hopefully it works. Here, you're going to focus here. So here I do want you to focus on this point. I actually have a little trick before I flip it and see. I'll tell you how I knew it was going to work, at least for me. Now you know this is one word. Yeah, I assume you're on wow because you saw something. That's why I know what I saw. What did you saw? Okay. Oh my God. Where did you see? Where did you see? And the color seemed approximately. A little off. So now you know this is white. So now we're going to apply this thing. You know what we're supposed to see. Now flip it back. How I knew it was going to work is because, and I'll show you here, so see if you can see this yourself. When I was staring here, even though I was all the way in the back, I could start to see a little color change here. Once I saw that it was sort of a little bleeding of the colors, I knew it was going to work. And once I switched it, you'd be able to see it even from the back. So remember, your job now is to not see anything but the white screen I'm about to show you. But you got to focus on this. So remember that little point. And you can reproduce this with your friends if you're maybe. You see it? Okay. Okay, so we're moving right along. ABC. Huh? No? See a B. You don't see a B? Do you see an A? You don't see a B, but you see an A. Where do you see the A? That doesn't look like an A I've ever seen. But 13 is the other way you can look at it. So here's one where it's context. Right? And here, for the most part, I can see the B. But it's really hard for me to see the B when they're both up there and I'm looking at the 12 and the 14. My mind wants to tell me it's a 13. Okay, I'm hoping this one works. This one's actually one of my favorites. It's called the waterfall illusion. I'm going to tell you in advance. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a stationary grid of dots. Stationary grid of dots. It is not moving. Does anybody see it moving? They are always going to be stationary. Go up there and move them around. And just to make sure you understood what I just said, the grid of dots do not. Okay. All right. Now I've got to switch over to my browser because I haven't figured out, I don't have the latest version of PowerPoint. I can't run stuff from it. So. Okay. Your job is to stay. Ideally at the minute. What does it look like it's going? Looks like it's coming at me. You see arrows going in? You don't see the spiral coming out the right. Keep staring at it, because remember I'm going to move you down in a bit to those dots that are not going to move. Just want you. Oops. Sorry. Sorry. Did anybody see the dots? Who did the spiral thing? Are the dots still moving? Because it's a normal one. Anybody not see the dots moving? So you can actually follow this link when you get curious, just try it for yourself and see if it's sitting on the phone. What did you see? Pretty much just the dots. For me, and after I did it a few times, like I actually looked because I saw, I think, the spiral sort of moving out. I actually saw like the dots are moving in. This is another one that people don't fully understand. Like there's competing theories on why this happens. The thing with inverted colors seems to be some consistency with like fatigue in your cones, in certain cones. So that when you flip them out, so basically it stops paying attention. I feel like if you get into a room where there's some smells, we're going to talk about smells today, we'll talk about really toxic. And after a while, you won't smell it anymore. The odors are still there. All right, let me go back to. Okay, so those were the questions I had. We talked about some of them already. Again, getting back to this idea that the visual modules are cognitively impenetrable. I didn't do it again. I did the first time I told you they weren't going to move. This is another one I've tried it a bunch of times, and even though I know, so I've tried it saying, okay, I know they're not going to move, so as soon as I switch it, I want to see them not moving. I can't do it. So I've mentioned Dr. Feldman's concepts a few times. These are quotes from the book. Using your concept, your brain groups some things together and separates other things. That might be similar to the 13, maybe looking like a bee to some people, or 13. Your concepts are a primary tool for your brain to guess the meaning of incoming sensory inputs. But if it's happening in your brain, some of these illusions or hallucinations seem to suggest that it's happening in a part of the brain that you can't do anything about. Which to me is a little scary. She talks about this predictive loop. This is in chapter 4, I think, so you probably have seen this already or you're going to see it when you get to do the homework. Predictions become simulations of sensations and movements. She says, these simulations are compared to actual sensory input from the world. If they match, then the predictions are correct and the simulation becomes your experience. If they don't match, your brain must resolve the errors. So I would say there's at least some period of time where I have an experience and the predictions are arguably not correct. Unless that's what my sensors are actually giving me. I mean, if it's my receptors are actually giving me that information, then maybe it's okay. Okay, this is the black dot counting. Oops. Oh. So now I have to connect. Speaker.
Battery 100%. Connected to Jose's MacBook Pro.
All right. This one's pretty quick. Basically, what you're going to do is there's going to be 3 events. And what you need to do is we're going to test how fast you can see. You need to count the number of times that you're going to see this black disc or dot at each event. You ready? Internet's gone of death.
Jose's MacBook Pro disconnected. Ready to pair.
Okay. Well, that worked. Here we go. Let's do this again. All right, so those were the 3 events. Did you see them? You want me to do them again? You saw them? All right. Nope. Okay, so now we're going to go back to okay. So in the first event, how many counted 1 dot flashing? We're going to do a little compare to, okay, so everybody's going to vote here on something. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do you have a hand up? 8. So the first event, 8 of you counted 1 dot flashing. How many of you counted 2 dots flashing on the first one? 1, 2, 3. Okay, some of you didn't count. Does that mean that 12 of you counted 3 dots? How many counted 3 dots? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I just put 5, and then there were no 4 dots. So if you were saving for 4 dots, then you're out of it. Okay. So the second event, now remember there were 3 events you saw. So maybe, did everybody understand how this worked? Did you understand you already saw 3 events? Yes or no? No? Okay, let's do it again. This time I'm going to tell you when the events are. So there are 3 events there total. That was one event. That was the second event. That was the third event. We'll do it one more time, then we'll vote again. This first event, second event, third event. Okay, let's do this again. We saw one, put it real up high so we can get through this quickly. One on the first event. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Who saw 2 on the first event? 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then did anybody see 3 on the first event? There's still some non-voters, but hopefully we'll get you on the second event. Who saw 1 dot flash on the second event? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Who saw 2 on the second event? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Who saw 3? Round 3. Who saw 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Who saw 2? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And who saw 3? 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Who's surprised that different people saw differently? So this actually isn't as much a vision test as it is a test to see how we process vision and sound at the same time. That's why I had to put the speaker up. So the number, what was actually there, and I went back and did it in slow motion just to make sure, is that it was 2, and then it was 1, and then it was 2. So it was 2, 1, and 2. But on the first one, I'm sorry, that's what you heard, 2, 1, and 2. But what the flashes actually were 1, 1, and 1. So I'm sorry I said that backwards. So the sounds, there were 2 sounds, but only 1 flash. And then there was one sound and 1 flash, and then there was 2 sounds and 1 flash. So it's kind of like the opposite of the McGurk effect. You were the people that saw 2 flashes, presumably because there were 2 beeps. Your mind processed the beeps and the flashes and decided that there was probably 2 flashes. Remember the McGurk effect, you're also using vision and sound, but the reason you're tricked there is because you're following what you're seeing, and what you're seeing is causing you to hear something that's not actually being said. Here it's the other way around. What you're hearing is causing you to see something that's actually not happening. So if your goal was to use two different types of sensors, sometimes it's not necessarily obvious which one to believe. Okay, good. Well, we're down. We finished sight here. Now we're going into sound. Kind of transitioned into sound here. Remember, we hear cochlea, nerve cells. Who's not seen this? I got the speaker up from the last thing that we did. If you've seen this, you know where I'm going with it. How many saw the tower jumping rope? Okay, good. What sound did you hear when the tower landed and shook the ground? What was it? Did anybody hear a sound? What did you hear? Like what? Like a boom.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is if they asked 18,600 people what they heard, and some people said they heard a boom like a thud sound. Some people said they heard a different sound like a or like a swoosh kind of a sound. And then some people couldn't hear anything. So obviously, if you've seen this before, it could change this, but I still hear it actually. And I have seen this before. I am in this, I heard the thud sound. So who else here today heard the thud sound? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 people heard the thud sound. How many people heard something else? Wasn't quite a thud, but one.
Question.
Yeah.
If I consciously decided to put a sound on, not that I heard, like I knowingly not wanted to create a different sound, like a sound for it, because I wasn't hearing anything. Does that count as something else in this case? Or is it?
I would say something else, that you heard something else.
I couldn't hear.
Yeah,
It's like pretending.
So you kind of heard an inner voice maybe or something.
Just something up. Like
Okay.
I knew that there wasn't a sound, and then I decided add a voice sound for fun. Usually, so I decided to.
We'll just put everyone else is here. So let's see, there's about 6 of you there that heard something else. And then some people didn't hear a sound. I put you in the other categories. So by default, we're going to put 5 in here. Okay. So when they actually did this for people who had never seen it before, 81% heard the thud-like sound, 4% heard something else, and only 15% didn't hear it. And this is called, if you heard anything, it's called an auditory hallucination. And it may be, I don't know the answer to this, but it may be that you consciously did it because you felt more comfortable or you just wanted to have fun with it. But it's hard for people to look at this, even if they know there isn't actually a sound, there really wasn't any sound, to not hear something, because it seems that when this thing was jumping up and down and landing, you should hear something. You haven't seen this one, or have you? So this one worked for me at my computer, by the way. I could still hear the thud sound. So even though I couldn't see a tower hitting, just the fact that like the earth seemed to be shaking was enough to get me to hear it. And again, these are different links you can try out. Okay, this is a little small. You can choose which one you want to read. Either those, I put it, it's here in Spanish and some bad English. It was translated by Google. But what I want you to do when you read this is just to hear the voice that's inside your head. And if you don't hear a voice inside your head, that's fine. We can talk about it after. So just read it to yourself and see if you hear a voice in your head. So now you know the name of my restaurant in Barcelona, by the way. But did everybody hear themselves or some version of themselves in their head? If you did not, raise your hand. What did you hear? You heard a female voice again? Okay. That's actually really hard to do for most people. You know, don't do this now, but try this at home with the slides and try to read and hear different people's voices, or even try to change the voice. What I found in my case is I could do it for a little while, but then eventually it would come back to my voice. So, what else? Someone else didn't hear that. What did you hear? Yeah, that's really fascinating to me. I don't know. I would love to hear someone else's voice, because other than my own. Interesting. I'm going to try that. Maybe if I hear someone else's voice for a while, and then try to see if they'll read to me, I'll get that. Okay. I want to get to the end, so we're going to start here next time, which is talking a little bit about deaf people, and the differences between deaf people who are deaf from the beginning or became deaf later, in terms of what they hear when they read by seeing. So again, we're mixing here seeing and hearing, but I don't want to go through that quickly because it's good, useful to help us find stuff. So I'll start there next time, and I'll also do touch next time. But now I want to wrap it up. So I want you to, so remember there were some people here that were forgetting. Some people here that were remembering. So obviously, if you forgot, I mean, you're not going to be able to remember. You try to remember. Well, these people remember. Raise your hand if you forgot.
If I remember,
Yeah, because if you forgot, you can't. I hope you forgot it for a little while to pay attention while I was talking. Everybody should have forgotten at some point. But no one forgot, right? I actually didn't think everybody would forgot, but I made this one up too, so I wasn't sure about it. So does everybody remember this? What was painted? Does anybody not remember what was painted? So everybody remembers the heart. Does anybody remember, or did anybody, because sometimes in these tests people take the name next person. Did anybody count it?
Yeah,
I did. I thought it was 16.
I mean, painted hands there was one that was wrong.
Yeah, so.
There was one thing.
So what's the
Picture behind it. I'm gonna say
what's your final?
final 15.
15. That's what I got. 15. Okay, so we're going to see, we can come back to this throughout the semester. Actually remember the picture. Because if everybody remembers it, man, that's almost 13 years. For everybody that's important, I would say.